The story of those who can fly. The gods and Oriental myths have a special ability. They can fly. However, ordinary people such as Brahmins in India, yoga practitioners, magicians and hermits could also despise and float in the air. Mystery of the human ability to fly. The story of those who can fly. There is a chapter in the Vedas on esoteric techniques, which teaches the method of reaching the status of lifting off the ground. Unfortunately, over the centuries, many ancient Indian words and concepts have been forgotten, so these invaluable transmissions cannot be translated into modern languages. Also related to the ancient flyers, many handwritten documents said they could lift themselves off the ground to 90 centimeters. They do this not to perform for the public but for the sake of choosing a suitable place to perform religious rituals. Scouting has long existed in India and Tibet. Many scholars, in Oriental studies, have referred to the flying Tibetan monks. Alexander David Neil, an English explorer, one day saw a Buddhist monk fly off the tens of meters of the high plateau, Knantang. Neil recounts that the monk came out of the ground several times as a bouncing tennis ball. His eyes directed at some of the stars somewhere in the sky to determine their location. The monk can see the stars in the daytime. Europeans have long been interested in the possibility of human flight. There is, however, a great difference between medieval and Western medieval flying people. Unlike Brahmins, yogis and hermits, European monks do not attend any special training classes to fly. They often hover in the air after reaching the state of ecstasy. According to credible documents, Teresa, a Carmelite nun, was one of the meditators of the Middle Ages. She flew in front of 230 Catholic monks. The nun wrote about her unusual gift in her autobiography in 1565. One thing to note in this autobiography is that Teresa herself does not want to fly. She spent many hours praying in an effort to get out of this special capacity. One night, God heard her prayers and the nun could never fly again. Joseph Disa used to be the most famous flyer. He came from a devout family in southern Italy. Since he was a boy, Joseph was a very devout, willing to endure all the austerities to achieve ecstasy. Later, he joined the Franciscan order and practiced the ability to fly. Scientists have observed more than 100 cases of Joseph's flight and recorded the comments in the official document. However, the Christians were unhappy about this phenomenon and consequently Joseph was taken to a remote monastery in 1653. 3 months later he went to another monastery. When Joseph arrives, news of the miracle man spreads out quickly. Many people from neighboring areas stand outside the walls of the monastery waiting for a miracle. Finally, Joseph was taken to a monastery in Osimo. He died there in 1663 and was canonized 4 months later. Daniel Douglas Hume was the most famous man of the 19th century. In a U.S. newspaper, a journalist described Hume's floating state in space. Suddenly Hume began to lift himself off the ground, shocking the people in the room. I found his legs about 0.3 meters from the ground. He jumped up and down. At the third he touched the ceiling. Hume demonstrated this extraordinary capacity in front of thousands of people, including celebrities like William Makepeace Thackeray, Mark Twain, Napoleon III and politicians, doctors and scientists. No fraud is detected in this phenomenon. Failure of the Great Devil. In the book Mystery Science in Ancient India, Louis Jacalios, France, has recorded quite the details of the phase of contempt. A lower technique of contemplation is fast-paced, quite popular in areas with complex terrain in China and Japan. Disciples of fasting can travel very fast and safely in rugged mountainous areas, with non-jumping techniques. The lagoon wall, lizard climbing wall, water adventure, running on water. The dazzling workmanship. Wherever there is a common point, it is to use a technique to reduce or eliminate the impact of gravity pull. Actually, contemplation is the most elaborate in Qigong, ancient Chinese martial arts. Daunting is a skillful exercise for the body to be gentle, like butterfly surf, like swallowing through the curtain. Running on grass, grass is not moving. Running on snow, snow does not print footprints. Across the water, no ripples. The Shaolin monks in the past practiced a few cool techniques. There are as many as 10 trained as snow boots, walking on snow without footprints. Tigers on the wall like a lizard, water hyacinth, running on water, super siege, running on the land as a fly, save the star, as fast as a meteor, running on cliffs upright. We often read stories about ancient cross-country ties, surfing the grass, surfing in the snow, on the water, for the myths that can never be believed but elaborately elaborated. But I know that it is still there, and when the practice is a work of suffering, sweat and tears. At least it takes at least 20 years to practice. After 20 years of hard work, Mr. Chong Hung Tone, 40 years old in Dalian, Jilin has trained the famous martial artist. The fixed 2 sides of the ear, with hooks attached to 2 Jeep cars, pulling the car walked on 150 eggs arranged in 2 vertical lines that eggs are not unharmed. Or inhale the iron bowl into the abdomen, spoon bowl connected to a bucket of 20 liters of water, then take the water walk on the eggs. Actual merit is true, however, with the ability of humans to only fly to a certain extent, but to do that requires a lot of time to practice. Actually, boxers are only running on water droplets, but they have not reached the level of running across the water. Mysterious ability to fly of man. There is much debate over the rise of man. Some researchers say it is a product of biological school, created by a particular form of mental energy emanating from the human brain. Dr. Alexander Dubrov, a biology specialist, supports this hypothesis. He points out that biofields are intentionally created by the non-human, so they can control and change direction as they float in the air. However, many other scientists disagree, so controversy is still a mystery that has not been convincing. So far, science has not had a way to explain the phenomenon of contempt because it goes against the law of universal gravity. One cannot prove, at least theoretically, how a person can escape from the impact of the Earth's gravity under ordinary conditions only by breathing supranational powers. The rebels said that from the past, it is only a trick to deceive the viewer's eyes. Some recent scientific experiments show more positive trends. For example, Russian scientists have experimented in a special environment, -160 degrees, a high-speed spinning disk, which rises to about 3,000 revolutions per minute in the presence of an electric field, will lose weight. US scientists do another experiment, when placing superconductors suspended in the magnetic field, they find that if an object is placed on the surface of a superconductor, its weight is reduced by 5%. As such, there is still hope for those who want to believe in special things, while the deceptive people still have the land to use the martial arts. And contempt is a special ability or just an illusion of humankind? This is still a secret.